This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. And as promised, I'm back for another edition of This Day in Sports History, a proud member of the Sports History Network. Check out sportshistorynetwork.com for more info and to find more podcasts. This is your host, Steve White, and let's go back in time to find out what happened on this day in 1984, when Mary Decker and Zola Budd became household names. Before there was Tanya and Nancy, there was Mary and Zola. This was the women's 3,000-meter final at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. Mary Decker was the world record holder in the event and the favorite for a gold medal. She had been the favorite for gold back in 1980, but the U.S. boycott of the Games denied her that opportunity. She had also put all of her hopes in winning a medal into the 3,000-meter race, choosing to not run the 1,500 in the 84 Olympics due to the amount of heat races and finals that she'd have to run in a 4-day span. Zola Budd was an 18-year-old South African that had been allowed to run under the British flag in this Olympics since South Africa was barred from competing due to its apartheid government. She had become known in the last 2 years as a shoeless speedster and was the one many had eyes on to challenge the American Decker. A field of 12 took off as the gun sounded, and Decker moved to the front ready to pace the pack for a few laps of the 7.5 that they were slated to run. A group of 4 that included Decker and Budd separated from the pack by a few meters. With a little over 2 laps to go, that pack emerged from turn 4 and was heading down the front stretch. Budd had a half-step lead on Decker, who was running on the inside just off Budd's left shoulder. The feet of Decker and Budd made contact a few times until the entanglement caused Decker to fall to the infield. Decker rolled in the grass for a few seconds and didn't make a move to get back up and rejoin the race. When a medical attendant rushed over, she sat up and looked angrily down the track at the pack streaking away from her. In one of the most iconic images taken from the 84 Olympics, Time magazine photographer David Burnett snapped the shot of a crying and upset Decker staring at her Olympic dreams running into the distance. The lead pack was now whittled to 3, with Romania's Marasica Puica, Britain's Wendy Sly, and Budd pushing the pace, with Budd out front. And then, an interesting thing happened. As the 3 rounded the 4th turn and came back to the spot of the still prone Decker, now being attended by several medical staff, Budd slowed, allowing Sly and Puica to break away. Many years later, Budd confirmed that she intentionally slowed down. She started to hear boos from the crowd as they approached the final lap, and they approached where Decker was still laying. She finally realized that it was Decker on the ground. She said the collision and the fall behind her had been a blur, and she wasn't sure it had actually been Decker who had fallen. But now, as she passed her again, she realized it was. And she said in an interview for a documentary about the incident that the crowd started booing, and that's when I gave up. Everything leading up to it, all the politics, all the hype, and then for Mary to fall, it was like a soap opera. It couldn't be real. I slowed down deliberately. I didn't want to be on the medal podium. I stopped running. Huika went on to win the gold medal. Sly took silver, and Lynn Williams of Canada won bronze. Budd finished a distant 7th. She was disqualified after the race, but later reinstated after a more extensive review. There was a rematch in July of 1985, one that I discussed in the July 20th edition of this dish, Decker winning that one in a non-eventful race. The documentary titled The Fall brought the two women together 32 years after the controversy and provided some much-needed healing to both women. Budd said of the get-together, "To be there with Mary put a lot of things to rest. Before, it was this huge stadium full of booing people, but meeting Mary normalized everything. It healed both of us." Moving on to what happened on this day in 1974, the NFL Players Association ended their strike, but not because they got what they wanted. The strike started on July 1st, and along with 63 demands, the players were wanting to ultimately end the Rozelle rule that stipulated that a team signing a free agent player must compensate the team the player left. If they could not agree on terms, the NFL commissioner would arbitrate the matter and fix the compensation. The players said the Rozelle rule made it tough for them to go to another team and sell their skill set for top money. Owners and general managers were reluctant to sign free agents who had opted out of their contracts because they didn't know who or what they would have to give up. And to push an end to the strike, the NFL was ready to use scab players to get the season started. The annual Hall of Fame game was played that year between no-names and cast-offs wearing Buffalo Bills and St. Louis Cardinals uniforms who had no problem crossing the picket line to get their chance to play in the NFL. When the players ended their strike on this day, the Rozelle rule was still in effect. The following year, a judge ruled that the Rozelle rule was a violation of antitrust laws. So, even though the players did not get the outcome they wanted in '74, it did lead to a better labor situation down the road and the free agency that players are able to enjoy today. On this day in 1953, it was a miracle golf shot, and it was caught on live television in a TV history first. This was the World Championship of Golf event being played at Chicago's Tam O'Shanter course. Top prize was $25,000, which at this time in 1953, it was the greatest prize offered to a winner of a golf tournament. Golfer Lou Worsham came to the par 4 18th hole a stroke back of leader Chandler Harper, needing a birdie to force a playoff. His drive left him 140 yards from the pin. Worsham hit a 9-iron. The ball hit the front of the green, bounced 3 times, and then rolled right into the hole for an eagle and the win. Worsham called it a lucky shot. Harper walked away stunned by what he'd just seen. The crowd seemed confused at first. What had they witnessed? After a longer pause than is typical for a miracle shot like this eagle was, the crowd erupted. Now, what made this event even more special than Worsham winning the biggest prize in golf at the time was the fact that this was the first live broadcast of a golf match, allowing the few who had televisions at this point to actually watch it as it happened. Another amazing ending to a golf tournament from this day. In 2014, it was the final round of the PGA Championship played that year at Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, Kentucky. Weather had caused extensive delays throughout the weekend, and when play finally restarted on this day, it looked unlikely that play would actually end on this day. With the final 2 groups on the par 5 18th, darkness was coming fast, and there were a few rumbles of thunder in the distance. On the green, Phil Mickelson and Ricky Fowler were looking at putts that had a lot riding on them. In the fairway, tournament leader Rory McIlroy had just birdied 17 to extend his lead to 2 shots. As the sun began to disappear below the horizon, tournament officials intervened and gave McIlroy an option: suspend play now and come back in the morning to play his approach and putt out, or hit into the Mickelson-Fowler group, Just to clarify, Mickelson and Fowler had agreed to that already. McIlroy decided to play and he hit the green with his third shot. Mickelson added a little pressure by rolling in his birdie putt to have Rory's lead back to 1. As darkness descended and a lightning bolt lit the sky for a brief moment, McIlroy two-putted for par to win the tournament by 1. Rory was appreciative of the kindness extended to him by Mickelson and Fowler, and thankful he did not have to come back on Monday. It was Rory's second straight major win after claiming the Claret Jug in July. The PGA Championship in 2014 was his fourth and remains his last major that he's won. And on this day in 2014, the world was introduced to the amazing pitching of 13-year-old Mo'ne Davis. Davis mesmerized batters en route to a 3-hit, 8-0 shutout on this day. That win over the team from Newark, Delaware, propelled her team into the Mid-Atlantic region of the Little League World Series. She continued to throw her 70-mile-per-hour fastball past batters in the Little League World Series in the coming days. Time now for today's Non-Sports Did You Know? There's a separate sphere inside our planet. Earth's core is not liquid iron, as was once believed, but a solid ball the size of Pluto, and it spins faster than the rest of our planet, though scientists believe it is slowing. That's all for today. Thanks for stopping by. Let's do it all over again tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.